And a gentleman is running by the name of President Barack Obama for re-election.
Who's that?
We have a choice.
Who's that? Just kidding.
And the choice is, do we want 4 more years of more taxing, more regulation, more spending? Or do we want 4 years of somebody who believes that individuals know better how to spend their own money, how to spend their own time?
Liberty!
I've got a new book coming out in November. It's called Dear Father, Dear Son, and it's about my relationship with my dad. My dad was born in the Jim Crow South during the Great Depression, or shortly before the Great Depression. Doesn't know who his biological father is. He was raised by a woman whom he thought was his mother. He found out from a kid in the neighborhood that it was his grandmother. My father had a mother who had a series of boyfriends. The longest one in his life was a man named Elder. They never married. He was an alcoholic who abused his mother physically and abused him physically. And one day my father came home from school. He was making too much noise for my grandmother's then boyfriend, and she kicked him out of the house. He left when he was 13, never returned home. He went to the neighbor by neighbor to try and find something to do. Somebody hired him to clean the yard. He was then promoted to cook. He became a Pullman porter on the trains. At the time, it was the largest private employer of blacks. And my father traveled all over the country, had a chance to come to California one time. And because of the weather and because of how friendly people were, he thought maybe someday he might relocate to California. World War II breaks out. My father joins the Marines. He's stationed on the island of Guam when they dropped the bombs in Hiroshima. He comes back to the South to get a job now as a cook. He was a cook in the service. He was promoted to sergeant. He goes to restaurant after restaurant after restaurant, and they tell him, we can't hire you because you have no references. That was their way of saying, we're not going to hire you because you're black. My father then goes to an unemployment office. He walks in the door. The woman tells him he went through the wrong door. He goes out in the hall. He sees colored only. He goes through that door to the very same woman. My father then told my mother, whom he had just married, this is BS, except he used language a little more colorful than that. And I'm going to California. I'm going to get a job as a cook, and I'll send for you. He comes out to California. He goes around for a day, day and a half. Sorry, sir, you have no references. He then goes to an unemployment office. They have no job. He says, what time do you open? She says, 8 o'clock. What time do you close? She said, 5. My dad said, I will be here at 8. I will be there at 5 until you find something. He sat there for a day and a half. She calls him up. She says, sir, I have something. I'm not sure you want to do it. My dad said, what is it? She said, you'll be working as a janitor. You'll be cleaning toilets. My father said, of course I want it. He worked at that company for 10 years, full-time, took a second full-time job as a janitor, cooked for a family on the weekends, went to night school 3 nights a week to get his GED. I never saw a human being work that hard. And my father, despite his hardships, despite the abuse he took and the stories he could tell, my father always said, hard work wins. The country is very different from the one I grew up in. You get out of life what you put into it, and no matter how hard you work, things are going to go bad. And your mother and I will know whether or not we raised a man based on how you respond to those bad things. My father was a Republican.
Yeah.
And my father believed that the Democratic Party was a party of handouts. That's how he put it. The Republican Party was a party of you get what you earn. We have an election, as I mentioned. And half the country believes that you can tax and spend your way out of a recession. And half the country believes, as Ronald Reagan did, that the more you take from America, the less you leave in the pockets of people that know what to do with the money and can invest it in a productive and humane way. There is a notion that our Judeo-Christian values mandate a government-set-up welfare state. I just had a father on my program, Father Robert Sirico. He's president of the Acton Institute. It's a libertarian free think market. And he says that's a corrupt reading of the Scripture. Isn't it fascinating how when people, for example, oppose gay marriage based on Scripture, you're called a bigot. On the other hand, they challenge you to set up a government welfare state based on Scripture. You explain that one to me. I'll leave you with this last story. I was blessed with parents that believed in this country and believed in the work ethic, even though they could tell you stories that would make you angry. And my mother and father often told us the stories when we were in our 30s and 40s. And I one time said, Mom, why didn't you tell me this when I was younger? She said, it happened to me, it didn't happen to you. It happened at a different time. I don't want you to grow up bitter.
Yeah.
We read a poem one day in my class. It went something like this. While riding through old Baltimore, so young and full of glee, I saw a young Baltimorean keep a looking straight at me. Now, I was young and very small, and he was no whit bigger, and so I smiled, but he poked out his tongue and called me nigger. I saw the whole of Baltimore from May until September. Of all the things that happened there, that's all that I remember. Well, I was pissed off. Everybody was pissed off. Teacher was pissed off. Class was pissed off. Everybody's angry. I go home angry. I walk in the house, I'm angry. I said, Mom, we read a poem in class. I want to get your reaction to it. She said, sure, what is it? I said, it goes like this. While riding through old Baltimore, so small and full of glee, I saw a young Baltimorean keep a looking straight at me. Now, I was young and very small, and he was no whit bigger, and so I smiled, but he poked out his tongue and called me nigger. I saw the whole of Baltimore from May until September. Of all the things that happened there, that's all that I remember. My mother took the spoon out of the pot, turned to me, and she said, Larry, too bad he let something so trivial spoil his vacation. God bless you. May God bless America. May God bless Congressman McKeon, Congressman Ellen West. Let's take the White House back to 2012.
Yeah.
Before Congressman McKeon comes in, I'd like to have an invocation from Pastor Cosman. I think I did this out of order, Pastor.